Hello everyone. Let's start with Western political thought. And today I would be discussing John Locke, an English philosopher. So John Locke is a social contract philosopher. As I have already started with Thomas Hobbes, he was the first social contract philosopher in the series. Next we have is John Locke as a social contract philosopher. So let me first give a very brief and basic introduction about John Locke. So he was born in 1632 in England, and his major books are Treatise on Government, Essay Concerning Human Understanding, Fundamental Constitution Concerning California. And he is also regarded as the father of individualism and one of the champions of liberalism of 18th century. And he was an ardent advocator of popular sovereignty, and in his theory he has established sovereignty being popular and not as we have seen in the philosophy of Thomas Hobbes. So he died in 1704. There are certain things on which he has worked upon, like Locke on human nature, Locke on a state of nature, Locke's social contract, individualism of Locke, and natural law. So let's start first with Locke on human nature. So as we have seen that whereas Hobbes has produced a very dark picture of human nature, just opposite to Hobbes, Locke has presented human nature as good, peace loving. So he described people as efficient, people are capable and considerate being. According to him, people love peace and people make rational choices and are rational being. According to him, he says the society was a pre-state society, and it could be a pre-political but not a pre-social. So what he believes that society was pre-social and it was based on goodwill and mutual understanding. And he also argues that there was cooperation among the people, and human being he feels are born equally, if not physically but morally. So let's move on towards his explanation of a state of nature. As I have said that on many occasions he departs from social contract philosophies of Thomas Hobbes. So here also he is deviating from Thomas Hobbes, and his philosophy of a state of nature is definitely based on his philosophy of human nature. So he believes that the state of nature was a condition where there was perfect peace, natural goodwill prevailed, and as I have said that it was pre-political and not pre-social. According to him, people were living in peace and harmony, and society was quite well organized. According to him, what he believes is that life was not as Hobbes has presented, quarrelsome and fear always, and intolerable. He believes that fellow beings were not in competition with each other, rather were inclined towards each other. And as Hobbes has presented that there was perpetual fear and hostility, here you would see in Locke's state of nature there was no perpetual hostilities as seen. According to him, all were a happy, equal, and free being. So, because of these things, there were a spirit of brotherhood and sociability. So, next he moves towards his social contract. Since his human nature and his state of nature is quite good and well, so his contract is basically arriving out of desire, willingness. His contract, people has made contracted to avoid confusions and inconveniences that has happened in state of nature, and because people wanted to preserve their natural rights of life, liberty, and property, they are coming in contract and creating an authority for interpretation of law. His contract is two-way contract. For example, as we have seen in Thomas Hobbes, that his contract was one way and his sovereign or leviathan is not contracting or coming after the contract. Here what happens is that he is not creating any sovereign here. Through his contract, people are contracting and surrendering, not surrendering, but people are coming in civil society just for the protection of their rights. So his contract is two-way because there are two parties to contract, and the same set of rules applied to the to both the parties. And since he is not creating any sovereign power, supreme power hence lies with the people themselves. So he is also, as I have stated in the beginning of the discussion, that he is an also called a champion of individualism or father of liberalism. It is because he always stood by the individual being. What he says in his philosophy, that individual had a definite standing. Individual is for him everything, and state here stood for preservation of individual rights. So since he is not creating a sovereign, uh, his he is giving individual right to resist against the sovereign also. So, protection of individuals' life, liberty, and property is the main aim, and perseverance of basic and natural rights of people being the other important thing in his philosophy. Another thing which is very important in Locke philosophy is law of nature. So, what he has elaborated, or what he meant by natural law or law of nature, is that it's a set of rules for human behavior, and it is based not on equality in qualities of brain, but independence of domination by others. For example, people are not dominating over the other, rather, they are equal. It is equally of personal independence. People are independent. It is such a conduct or code of rules which governs all people at all time. It is not an antithesis of real law, but rather its condition precedent. So, what he further says that these it not only gives right alone, but imposes certain duties over the people too. So basically, he has tried to pinpoint as how people should behave with each other. So, for example, he is interested in bringing equality and independence of domination by others. And here, what he means by promoting law of nature is that equality and independence, which for him was very that means everybody's birthright, and for him it was a precondition of natural law. So these rights are right to life, right to liberty, and right to property, and for him these all should be free to and equal to act and think within the bounds of natural laws. Since he has been criticized also for what he has explained in his political philosophy. So let's take a quick point of his criticism, that Locke has stressed too much on the institution of private property, and even Locke concept of sovereignty, uh, if pressed into practical aspect, would not come to logical conclusions, and if it is made to so, it would make a state a corporate body. And it is also criticized for making uh, so many things for granted, like the moral and the intellectual values of mankind, without the coercive power of the state. And then his idea of allowing people to right to revolt is also unwarranted, because history is a witness that revolutions are usually engineered by the minorities and not the majorities. So Locke has based his theory on pleasure and pen concept. But if you see that if they are closely associated with the idea of preservation, welfare, and well-being theory, uh, you can see the differences in the philosophy of the two. So these are the criticisms of John Locke's philosophy. Thank you. Thank you.